What's going on, addicts? Welcome to the Fantasy Addiction Network. In this video, we are going to offend someone while we talk about Tyler Higbee because there's no way that I can't at this point because their opinions on him are very divisive. But we need to do it. We need to talk about it and try to steer you guys in the right direction. Hit that subscribe button for more videos like this one, but let's get into it. Talked about Tyler Higbee last year. Talking about his whole season doesn't necessarily do it justice with what he was able to do. Finished with only 69 receptions and 734 receiving yards and 3 total touchdowns. Did miss one game with a lung contusion. That just sounds painful reading it. Finished with the 8th most fantasy points at 160.4 and averaged 10.7 fantasy points per game. Good enough for 9th at the position. But again, that is not telling you the whole story because he did the majority of his work in the last 5 games of the season, as is portrayed here. Had one good game to start the year with 12 points and then finished on an absolute tear to round out the last 5 games of the season. Let's just get straight into the stats. Finished with the number 1 fantasy points per game on average over the course of that last 5 games. Scoring more than Travis Kelce, more than George Kittle, more than Mark Andrews, more than Zach Ertz. Okay. About 2 weeks ago was the day that everyone in fantasy Twitter decided to start throwing Tyler Higbee under a bus, and I get it. The argument is, look at that game script, or look at the game log, and remember that Gerald Everett got hurt, and when Gerald Everett got hurt, Tyler Higbee came in and completely dominated. And Tyler Higbee also did this against Arizona twice, who was the worst defense against the tight end. Seattle was one of the worst defenses against the tight end. Dallas wasn't that great either. San Francisco was a bit of an anomaly because while they were really good against the tight end, in general, they were dealing with a lot of injuries towards the end of the year, so you could also explain away that performance. So I get it. I get the logic for, well, Gerald Everett, when he was on the field, Tyler Higbee wasn't even playable. But we're not talking about a 1-for-1. Brandon Cooks is no longer here. Brandon Cooks has a lot of vacated targets, and I don't believe enough in Van Jefferson or Josh Reynolds to expect them to just continue on the direction that they were going when they had 3 solid wide receiver ones. Over the back half of the year, the last 5 games to be specifically, the Rams shifted to far more 12 personnel, meaning they had 2 tight ends on the field. So even if Gerald Everett is healthy this year, Tyler Higbee will be on the field as well. Tyler Higbee was used more as a pass catcher towards the end of the year, and it was working. They were winning games at this point, and he proved himself to be a really reliable tight end over that time. They've already paid him. They believe in his talent. Yes, they believe in Gerald Everett too. But again, I can't stress enough that it is not a 1-for-1. And if you're just comparing the situation that the Rams were in last year to this year and saying, well, Gerald Everett's going to be back, you're forgetting about Brandon Cooks. I had to get that out. I do have some bias. I had Tyler Higbee in a lot of leagues last year, and he won me a lot of money. So I get that. But there's a lot of good things to be said about him too. He finished with 14 red zone receptions, which was actually kind of crazy. There was a stat earlier, I believe, something like Jared Goff had thrown somewhere near 12 touchdown passes where the receiver was tackled like 1 or 2 yards from the goal line, and of those 12, he didn't throw any other touchdowns past that, so his touchdown regression is going to go up. I believe it was JJ Zacharyson on Twitter that said that, and a lot of that was Robert Woods, but a lot of it was Tyler Higbee. 14 red zone receptions and only coming away with 3 touchdowns. If he continues that trend, his touchdown count will go up. He finished with 368 yards after the catch, which was 4th amongst tight ends, even considering the fact that he wasn't really getting a full workload until the last 5 games of the season. He finished with 2.8 yards per pass route, which is again number 4 among tight ends. He had a 2.2% drop rate, a 60% contested catch rate, and a 94.5% true catch rate. Like, Jared Goff has been blessed with some of the best pass catchers in Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, and now Tyler Higbee, and it's really going to benefit him a lot, I think. Finished with 0.61 fantasy points per pass route, which was number 3 among tight ends. Again, I am in the minority, I believe now, in thinking that Tyler Higbee is going to be able to produce not at the same rate. Like let's be clear here. I don't think he's going to be the number one tight end because if he finished over the course of the season, if he was able to put together like that last 5 weeks and spread that out over the course of the season, he would have been far and away the best tight end. Like I don't expect that at all, and will gladly take the ADP drop that is coming as a result of people throwing him under the bus. Tyler Higbee is probably the only tight end in that middle tier of tight ends that I'm willing to take a shot on before we get closer to the double digit rounds because of the upside that he provides. If he's able to come anywhere near what he did last year, he is still an enormous draft day value. I'm not drafting him in the fifth round. I'm not even drafting him in the sixth round. But right now he's going ADP wise, typically around the eighth round. I'm willing to take that bet. And if it misses, typically if you miss on an eighth round pick, it's not going to kill you. But if it hits, and Tyler Higbee gets a lot of the targets that are vacated by Brandon Cooks, I know what he did last year, and that was a difference maker for anyone that was able to pick him up over the waiver wire. Getting that many points from the tight end position is absolutely huge because that is such a garbage position year over year. You're only happy if you can find a tight end that can produce 10 points for you every week, and that's rare. So if you can find someone that has the potential to be a top tier tight end in terms of fantasy points, and you can get him in the eighth round, I feel like this is this year's Mark Andrews. When you're talking about guys that finish the year on a really good note, they normally carry it over into the next year. A lot of people were throwing shade on Derrick Henry last year, but he finished near the top amongst running backs from the end of 2018, and he carried it on over into 2019. We see it year over year. It happens a lot. I know that's somewhat narrative based, but again, without Brandon Cooks there, I believe that Tyler Higbee is going to be heavily involved in this offense, and fade him at your own peril. Have him getting 71 receptions, 738 receiving yards, and up to 5 touchdowns. That gives him 173.1 fantasy points. That's not crazy by any means, but that puts him at number 5 in our projections. He could very clearly do more than that if he's getting 10 targets a game again, like he was in the past couple games of the season. I don't think that's going to happen, but if he's averaging 5 to 8 targets a game, he's going to be a very productive tight end, and you'll be very sad that you passed on him because of Gerald Everett. So I like Tyler Higbee a lot this year, and I'm going to plant my flag. I've tried to go along with the crowd of hating Tyler Higbee, and I just can't do it. I watched too many of his games last year, and it was just in awe with how productive he was. He could do it again, and there's not really much reason to use other than Gerald Everett's back as your argument for why he can't. So I like Tyler Higbee. Hate me for it, whatever, but if you draft him and he blows up, thank me for it later. Thank you guys for watching. Hit that subscribe button for more videos, and we'll see you in the next video.